Hello and welcome to our third chapter wherein we are going to discuss about edit mode. So, in this chapter we are going to alter the topology of our model by entering into edit mode. To explore what this edit mode is, let us come to Blender. So, now coming to Blender, we are in our default general file and you have a cube here, and I will select the cube, and right now you can see we are in the object mode and I have to move into edit mode. How do we move into edit mode? The first option is you can come here and choose edit mode. So, now it is in edit mode, and if I again click here, I can come back to object mode. So, now when I press tab on the keyboard, you can see we enter into the edit mode, and again if I click, we come out of the edit mode. So, tab is a toggle to move between object and edit mode. And the other option that we have is, so when you select the object and if you press Ctrl+Tab, you are going to see all the modes over here, and if you move your mouse to right, you get the edit mode, and again press Ctrl+Tab and move to left, you get the object mode. So, now I will come into edit mode, and once I come into the edit mode, now I will also come over here and I will enable statistics. So, right now in this cube you can see that it has 8 vertices. And what is this vertices? Vertices are these small points that you are seeing here. These are called as the vertices. So, to make you understand this better, I am going to select any one of the vertices here. I will select one vertices here, and then I will come to select and I will choose invert. The keyboard shortcut is Ctrl+I. So, if I press Ctrl+I, except this vertex, all other vertex is selected. Now, I will press X, and in delete option, I will delete vertices. So, now what happened is, in our cube, I just have one vertex. So, this point that you are seeing as of now is called a vertex. So, now if I come into the object mode, you see nothing, and if I render it also, you won't see any object. Right now I will select this vertex, I will come into object, set origin to geometry, and then I will set these values to 0. So, now what happened is, vertex is exactly at the center of my screen. I will press numpad 1 and come into the front view. Next, I am going to again press tab and come into edit. I am now going to select this vertex. So, just like in object mode, if we want to duplicate an object, we press Shift+D. Similarly here, if I press Shift+D, see I got a new vertex here, and this one I am going to move it along the x-axis by 1 unit. The new vertex, you can see here, it has moved by 1 unit. So, in the last modification, you can see it has been moved along the x-axis by 1 unit. So, right now in our geometry, we have 2 vertices, and even now if I come into object mode and render, nothing is going to get rendered. So, I will again press tab and come into edit mode, and now I am going to select this vertex 1, with shift press select vertex 2, and then I am going to come into vertex and I am going to choose the option new edge face from vertices, and the keyboard shortcut for this is F. So, either I can click here, or if I press F on the keyboard, see now what happened is, between this vertex 0 and this vertex 1, between these two vertices, now you are seeing a line, and this line is what we call as an edge. And when we are in edit mode, on the left hand side next to this edit mode, you are seeing 3 buttons. The first button is called as the vertex selection, the second one is called as the edge selection, and the third is the face selection. Right now we are in vertex selection. So whenever we are selecting the vertices. So if I press G and move, this vertices is moving. I will right click and cancel it. Now the second option I have here is the edge, and to come into edge I can press number 2 on my keyboard, not numpad 2 but number 2 on the keyboard, and you can now see I am in the edge mode. And in the edge mode, if I come and click on this edge, you can now see this edge is selected. If I press G and move, this entire edge with both the vertices is going to move. I will right click and cancel it. Now next, I am going to come back to vertex mode. I am going to select these two vertices here, and I will press Shift D to duplicate, and then along the Z axis I will move it by 1 unit. So now if I zoom and show it to you, you can now see you have a duplicate of these two vertices over here, and along with the edge it has got duplicated. You can see here I have 4 vertices and 2 edges. Now next I am going to select this edge. With shift pressed I will select this edge, and if I press F on my keyboard, this gets connected, and now you can see we have 3 edges. And now once you have 3 edges, or if you select 1 with shift press 2 with shift press 3. So in vertex mode, if I select these 3 vertices, and now if I press F, see what happens? You are now going to get a face, and this is what we call as a face. So now you can see we have 1 face, 4 edges and 4 vertices, and whatever face you have created, this we call it as a triad. Triad means this face is created with 1, 2 and 3 vertices. Any vertices that is created with 3 vertices, we call it as a triad. So right now I will undo this face selection by pressing Ctrl Z. Removing the face now, press 1 on the keyboard, come into vertex selection tool. I will select this vertex. With shift press I will select this vertex, and I will press F. So now you can see I have 4 edges, 4 vertices. I will come into edge mode, and I will select 1 with shift press 2 with shift press 3 with shift press 4. I select all the 4 vertices, and now if I press F, you can now see again a face is created, but now the difference is this face is a quad. We call this as quad because this face is made up of 1, 2, 3 and 4 vertices. I am going to press A and select everything. Now I will press Shift D and I will press Y and I will move it 1 unit. Now I will again come into the vertex mode by pressing 1 on my keyboard. Then I will select this vertex and this vertex, press F. Similarly, I will select this vertex and this vertex and I will press F. So now I got 2 edges. With shift pressed, I will select both this and I am now going to press F. So I got the third face. So now I have 3 faces, 10 edges and 8 vertices. So similarly now I will come to the top and I will select 1, shift select 2, 3 and 4. I select all the 4 vertices and press F. And then I will turn around and I will select 1 with shift press 2, with shift press 3 and 4 and I will press F. So now you can see that we have 8 vertices, 12 edges and 5 faces. The problem is, if you come down, I should also select 1, 2, 3 and 4, and if I press F, so now all the 6 faces you can see. So this is the structure of any polygon. So whenever you see a polygon, the polygon will be made up of vertices, edges and faces. So if you want to select vertices, you use the first option with keyboard button 1. For edges, use the second, and faces you use the third. And now for example, I am in vertices mode. If I select a vertex, and now just like you move an object, if I press G and move it, see, it is going to move. If I press X, it moves along the X axis. If I press Y, it moves along the Y axis. If I press Z, it moves along the Z axis. So now, instead of the entire object, I am selecting only one vertices and I am moving it. So I will right click and cancel it, and similarly if I press 2 on the keyboard, I will come into edit mode, edge mode, and if I select an edge, and again if I press GX, see, you can see this is moving in the X axis, Y, it moves along the Y axis, and Z, it moves along the Z axis. I will right click and cancel it. Now similarly if I press 3, I can select a face, and now selecting the face, I can press GX to move it along X axis, GY to move it along Y axis, and GZ to move it along Z axis. I can even press S and scale it along the X axis or along the Y axis, and I can also press R and rotate it. See, like this I can rotate it. We are actually modifying face instead of the entire object. So with this, you have got a fair idea about how this edit mode works. I will press Tab and come into object mode. I will select this cube, press X and delete it, press 1 and come into the front view. Now I will press Shift A, and now I am going to add a different object. Say for example, I will add this Suzanne monkey. So when I add Suzanne monkey, so now this is in object mode, and when I press Tab, I enter into the edit mode. So when I come into the edit mode, you can now see that in this Suzanne also, if I press 1 on the keyboard and come into vertex, I can select every vertex. So I can select this vertex G, Z, and I can move it to the top like this. So, or I can click on the edge or press 2 on the keyboard, select an edge and press G to move it like this. Similarly, if I select the face or press 3 on the keyboard, I can say for example select this 4 faces. I will press 1 and come into the front view, and if I press G, Z and move it, you can now see all these 4 faces have moved to the top. I can press S and I can scale it, or I can press R and rotate it. I will press Z and rotate it along the X axis. So like this, we can modify the geometry of the object by using this edit mode. So the next thing is, say for example, I will again press Tab, I will just press X and delete it. Now I will press 1 and come into the front view, press Shift A, and now an UV sphere. So right now you can see I have 32 segments, 16 rings and 1 meter radius. Means if I press Tab, you can now see there are 32 longitudes and 16 latitudes. If I press 1 on the keyboard and select any vertex, say I can select any vertex. See, all these faces are quads except for the faces present over here. That is, at the top, North Pole and the South Pole, these are all triads, and all the faces on the bottom edge here at the South Pole are also triads. So this is the structure of an UV sphere. How are we going to select it? So, to select it, the first kind of selection, the most easiest selection is the box selection. If I press B on my keyboard, you are going to see this crosshair, and if I drag, you are going to get a face. See, everything inside this box gets selected. Now, one thing is, once I have selected it, if I turn and see it, see, the problem is only the faces facing in the front has got selected, but the back side faces are not selected. Then I can press 1 and come into the front view, and then I am going to come here and enable this X-ray view. And when I enable X-ray view, and then I will click somewhere and deselect everything, and now if I draw a box, see, now both the front and the back are selected. So, now I will press 1 and come here, and I have selected all these faces. Now I will press Shift+D. Now what happened? All these faces have got changed. I will press Z and move it to the top like this. Say for example, here I will move it by around 0.5 units. Now I will come into the vertex mode. So I am now in the vertex selection mode. Then what I have to do is press scale, and along the Z axis press 0. When you press 0 and when you press enter, so now what happened is, see, now this entire thing became plane. So now we got two objects here. If I press tab and come into the view, you have one circle on the top which is like a plane, and then a cube here. And now I will press 1 and come into the front view. I will press tab again, and now this is one mode of selection, that is the box mode. We call this as the box mode. And in box mode, say for example, I select a particular set of boxes like this, and now if I again press B, and if I middle click and make a selection, the objects that I am now going to select will be deselected. So remember, if you left click and draw the box, it gets selected. If you middle click and draw the box, it gets deselected. So now, apart from this box selection, the other kind of selection I have is circle selection. So if I press C now you can see a circle, and now with this circle, if I left click and drag, whatever is inside this circle, it gets selected. See, like this I can select whatever is inside. Say for example, wherever I am clicking, so like this it gets selected. And now when I am doing this selection, rotate the mouse down, see, you can see the ring is becoming bigger. And if I rotate the mouse back, you can see the ring is becoming smaller. Say for example, I want to select this one vertex, means I can click here and select it. So now what has happened is, I will press escape, come out of this selection tool, rotate and show it to you. See, now what has happened, both the front and back vertices are selected, because I am in X-ray mode. If I switch off the X-ray mode, and if I click somewhere here, deselect everything, and now if I press C and if I click here, now you can see only this vertices is selected. I will press escape, I will move back, see, the backside vertices is not selected. Now apart from these two, I want to select all the vertices that is in this line. I will select one vertex, and now if I press shift and select any other vertex, see, the vertex gets added to the selection like this. So because I am in the vertex mode, see, this vertex gets added. Whereas I will click here and deselect everything, and now if I press one vertex here, press Ctrl and select another vertex here, now what happens is you can now see all the vertices in this path is selected, and this is pick shortest path. Means when you use Ctrl, any two vertices, that is the shortest path of the vertices will be selected. Say for example, I want to select all the vertices in this particular row. Then what I can do is, I will select one vertex here, press Ctrl and click it to select till here. Now press middle mouse and turn around, press Ctrl and click it till here, press Ctrl and click it till here, and then press Ctrl and click it till here, and press Ctrl and click it till here. And now if I press Ctrl and click it till here, now I have this entire ring selected. So if I press Ctrl, the shortest path of the vertices will be selected. I want to select this entire vertices row in one click. I will come into this edge mode now, and then I am now going to select any one edge, and then I will come into select, and I am going to choose this select loops, edge loops. And when I click on this, you can now see all these vertices are now selected. So select all the vertices in one particular row at a time. What you can do is come into edge mode, then use this edge loop, and the keyboard shortcut for this is Alt left click. Means say for example, if I press Alt and left click on this particular edge, you can see all the edges are selected. And now similarly, instead of clicking here, if I Alt press and if I click here, now what happens is all the edges from top to bottom is selected, but if you come down, see this selection is not running on the other side. So it is not, say when I click Alt and when I click and select this latitude rings, entire circle is selecting. But if I press Alt and select the longitude rings, entire circle is not getting selected. Why is it so? Because in case of latitude, when you make this selection, see automatically this vertex is connected to this vertex. So when it is selecting the loop, at every point it has only one route to make the selection. Whereas if I Alt and click on the longitude ring, now what happens once the edge comes over here, see now it gets confused whether to connect to this edge or this edge, because you have so many paths. So because of this, in case of longitude, it is only going to select the edges which has one definite path. If the path gets distributed like this, the selection is going to stop, and this is what we call as edge loop selection. So similarly, like edge loop, say I select one edge here, and if I come into select and instead of loop, edge rings if I select, see now all the edges from top to bottom are selected. And even in this case, what is happening? It is not getting selected on the other side. Whereas if I select this edge and if I come over here and in select, if I choose edge rings, you can now see all these edges are selected. So these are the different modes of selection that we are going to use when we select the edges, faces and vertices. So now the keyboard shortcut is when Alt click on an edge, entire loop is selected, whereas if I press instead of only Alt, if I press Ctrl Alt and if I click, then you can see the rings are selected. So these are the different mode of selections that we have. This type of selection works both for edges and also for faces. Say for example, I am in face mode, and if I click on this, only this face is selected. Now if I alt click on any edge over here and if I click, see all the faces here are getting selected. The faces are now getting selected horizontally as a loop. However, if I click somewhere, deselect, and if I press Alt, instead of clicking here, if I click here, see this part is selected. You can now see. So I can make a selection like this, press G and move it like this. So I can modify it like this. And one last thing that I want to show you here is, if you want to select everything that is present in this object, press A on your keyboard. So when I press A, all the faces are selected. If I am in vertex mode, all the vertex are selected. So if I want to select everything, press A. And if you want to deselect everything, press Alt A. Alt A to deselect everything, A to select everything. However, in some cases, say for example, I doesn't want to select this top loop. I want to select this only this bottom loop, means I will press Tab. I will now click somewhere to deselect everything, bring the mouse over here, and now if I press L on the keyboard, only the linked vertices will be selected. So now only you have this selected, but this is not selected. I will press Alt A to deselect everything. Now I will bring the mouse here, and if I press L, only this portion is selected. And another thing I want to show here is, say for example, I am in vertex selection mode. I will middle press the mouse, I will shift middle press, pan it, and I select one vertex at the center. Then if you come to select, you have one option, more, less. If I click more, you can now see the next round of vertices is selected. The keyboard shortcut is Ctrl+. So Ctrl numpad plus. See now it increased. Again press Ctrl numpad plus, so I can add to the selection. Or if I press Ctrl numpad minus, see the selection is reduced. So same thing, if I press Alt A, deselect everything, press middle mouse, come over here, and even in this case I select any vertex here. Say for example, I have selected this vertex, and if I press Ctrl+, see how the selection grows, and if I press Ctrl minus, see how this diminishes. In this session we explored what is a vertex, what is a edge, and what is a face. And we also discussed about box selection, circle selection, and edge loop and edge ring selection. So in our next session, we are going to continue with this selection, and we are next going to work on another kind of modification, which we call it as extrude and insert. So this we are going to discuss it in our next session. Thank you.